I'm going to tell you the story how I became a cat whisperer, also as an inspiration to you that yes, I came from somewhere completely different and I made the switch in a very short time. You too can become a professional cat whisperer or a healer, an animal communicator. It's possible for all of us, and you can do it on the side. You don't have to throw your job away and, oh my God, I'm jumping into this. You can do this on the side, because I did. I started to do this on the side, and now I'm 100% dedicated cat expert, cat whisperer, and I do this for a living now. And this was me, 2015. I was a very busy executive in the movie industry, and I had about 20 years in the movie industry, and it was great, and I loved it. And I thought I was going to do this probably my entire life, because I thought this is one of the greatest jobs ever. I mean, you go to the office and you have to watch a movie in the morning. It was a great life, but it was very stressful. It was very stressful, and after 20 years, I was burned out more than once, and more than once my body was telling me enough stress, because the movie business is very fast paced. And I was very cerebral. I was very much into planning and schedules, and I worked with the figures and the numbers and the marketing budget. So I was very structured. And then 3 years later, I was the complete opposite. I was intuitive and a cat whisperer and no more schedules. I made the switch, the final switch, in 3 years, really from corporate America to being 100% cat whisperer, and away from structures into, I do intuitive readings and I do healings and all that stuff. And that was this completely different life. And what happened, you may say, but I'm going to go back now a couple of years. These guys happened, and this guy happened. Meet Lenny and Lisa and Jamie. That was 10 years earlier. If I was still in the movie industry, I was still a very busy lady. But I brought Lenny and Lisa into my life, 2 kittens, and I had grown up with cats. So I've always loved cats. I was always a cat person. But then we had allergies in the family. We had to give our cats away. It broke my heart. And I didn't have cats for a very long time because I was busy. I moved out. I was alone, all that busy lifestyle. And then finally in my 30s, I said, I have to have cats again in my life. So I brought Lenny and Lisa in, and they were the cutest and the sweetest and the best. And my first cats as an adult. So I learned everything you need to learn as a cat parent. I read the books and went to the cat forums. There was no social media at the time. I went to the cat forums, and I learned all the stuff you learn as a cat mom, just the regular stuff, what you need to know to have a happy cat. Then Jamie came in 4 years later, and this little guy, the cutest and the sweetest and the best little soul, but he came with a lot of problems. He came in with emotional problems, with psychological problems. He would scratch, he would bite. He wasn't properly socialized. He was a rescue from Spain. He was found at 4 weeks old, all alone on the streets of Barcelona in Spain. So he had all these problems, emotional problems. He would get in fights with Lisa all the time. He didn't know how to be with the other cats because he wasn't socialized. He had health problems. In the first 2 months of him being with me, I spent about $2,000 in vet bills. I was at the vet twice a week with him. He kept losing weight. He couldn't hold anything in. He had diarrhea, excuse my French. He had these colon problems. And he was just a very sweet little guy, but he was just very sick. And the vets, they couldn't really help me. They gave him the shots and the antibiotics and the cortisone, and he got sicker and sicker from all the antibiotics and the cortisone. They were just trying to help, but you see where this is going, right? He came into my life and he taught me so many things. I had to look for other solutions. I looked into homeopathy. I looked into plant medicine. I tried all kinds of stuff to make him get better. And then I accidentally or coincidentally performed my first energy healing on him without knowing what I was doing. He was just getting sicker and sicker, and he was this little guy and he was lying there. So I just said, I have an idea. I'm put my hands over him. I sat down with him, put my hands over him, and I said, I'm going to suck this stupid disease, whatever it is, out of the cat. So I put my hands over him, and I just imagined I was like a vacuum cleaner. I just imagined I would suck everything out of him. And I did that for 15 minutes. And I said, well, I think it's enough. And I walked away. And I kid you not, the next day, Jamie got up, he was running around, he started to eat, he started to gain weight. I had literally sucked the disease out of him. And I said, oh my God, this worked. I didn't know that worked. Oh my God. And now nobody was more surprised than I was. I didn't know anything about energy healing at the time. That was in 2008. It wasn't really big thing at the time. But I was just glad, okay, that worked. And he got better and better. But what still persisted was his episodes and the fighting with Lisa. So I tried Bach flowers and pheromones, and I called cat psychologists. And as I said, I'm not discrediting any cat psychologist, but she came in, she did behavioral therapy. Nothing worked really. And she told me stuff that I could have read in textbooks as well, and it didn't work. So I tried everything, clicker training and all kinds of stuff, and nothing worked. He still had his episodes and he was still fighting with Lisa. And then I found animal communication. You see where this is going. I just had to find my own solutions. And I went through the entire repertoire of things to find things that worked. And what worked was energy healing. What worked was animal communication. Oh, that's why this is happening. That's why that is happening. And I don't even want to go into all of this because I could tell my story for an hour here, and I don't want to do that. But the only things really that worked was energy healing and animal communication. And all the other stuff just went out the window. So, make a long story short, my cats became happy and healthy. Finally, after 8 years, also Jamie and his colon problems, he became very healthy, but he had colon problems up until 8 years old. And at 8 years old, I finally started to do energy healing. I mean, proper energy healing. I read up on it, I studied it, I took classes, and then I found the emotion code. And in 5 minutes, I cured his diarrhea. Excuse my French, he had diarrhea for 8 years of his life. And everybody, all the practitioners, all the vets said, he's just going to have to live with it. We can fix it. It's just how it is. And then I found energy healing, did the emotion code on him, 5 minutes treatment. And his colon problems went away, never came back for the rest of his life. So 8 years of diarrhea cured in 5 minutes, just because I finally found the right tool. He had a trapped emotion in his body. All the trauma he had been through, abandonment as a street cat, 4 weeks old, siblings gone, mother gone, all that trauma was trapped in his colon. And I released those trapped energies, and his colon was fine for the rest of his life. He passed away 2 years ago, sadly, but he had a long and healthy life after that. You see where this is going, right? I had to help myself. I could not rely on help from the outside. I had to help myself. And when finally, after 2015 and 2016, I had a little breakdown, my body said, no more stress, no more all of that job stuff. So I was starting to seek my purpose. And it was pretty clear to me after a very short time, I said, it has to do with cats, right? I want to make this a better world for cats. And I realized that my cats had trained me on the job. So my Jamie, my little Spanish, sweet little soul, he was my Mr. Miyagi. He had, for those who know the Karate Kid movie, he was my Mr. Miyagi. He had trained me wax on, wax off, wax on, wax off. I thought I was healing or helping Jamie, but really he was the one who paved the way for me to be a cat whisperer, because I had tried everything and I knew what worked and what didn't work. And I knew so much, but he had trained me. So this is for all of you who have a difficult cat or who have cats in their lives that seem to have all these problems and you don't know why. Your cat might be training you as a cat expert. Your cat might be your Mr. Miyagi. So just listen. And I became a cat psychologist. I was still coming from here. I did the training. I got the certificate as a cat psychologist, but that was just more by the book training. When a cat does this, it always means this. When a cat does that, scientists say that that's what the cat means. It is what it is. I do have the certificate, but I also know that that alone was not it. So I added energy healing because I knew that worked. I just delved head on to energy healing. I learned, I don't know, over the time, 10 modalities or something. I learned animal communication, which was really the most important thing to add. And I added that later in the game, really. But that was the most important thing. Had I done that in the beginning, I would have probably gotten to it much faster. I would have probably cut 2 years, 3 years out of my training had I done animal communication right away. But it is what it is. I added it at the end. But there was still something missing. It hadn't clicked completely. And the final puzzle piece came when I received a message from my star family, channeled through a cat. And what happened was that I was visiting my sister-in-law in Miami, and she has a cat, and my sister-in-law is very spiritual, and she has this very spiritual cat. And I was with him for a couple of days. And then the last day, I was packing my suitcase, And her cat jumped up next to my suitcase, and the cat just sat there and looked at me and looked at me and looked at me. And I said, "Oh, that's so sweet. You're helping me pack." And then I said, "No, I think this cat wants to say something." So I sat down, I tuned in, and I had just started with animal communication at the time. So I wasn't really that skilled yet, but I tuned in. And this most profound message came channeled through Mystique the cat, and it was reading my star family, the Lyrans. And they told me that I was a starseed, and I came here with an important mission, and they basically gave me the last piece of the puzzle. They gave me my assignment, and I'm going to read that for you. The channel message was, tell people to not treat cats as babies or kids, but as grown-ups and divine beings. Tell people about their purpose, and that cats help them find and follow their purpose. Tell them that cats come into their life in order to help them become their best self. And that really was the last piece of the puzzle that I needed to add this entire, the human and the cat and how they're entwined. And from that moment on, it just really became my own purpose to be a true ambassador for the felines and really work on a heart and soul level. So what I did in the following, I devised a concept called holistic cat therapy, and I'm just going to go through this real quick. I did animal communication, cat communication as the basic tool. I did energy healing. First, I would talk to the cat. When people came to me with cat problems, such as my cat pees, my cat does this, my cat fights, I would do this mix of animal communication, ask the cat what's the problem, do energy healing on the issues, do a lot of soul work with the cat and the human, soul contracts, all that stuff, and work with the human to also coach the human. That was the missing link. I had not coached the humans before, and I started to coach the humans actually on their issues, because when the cat showed the human issues, the human would usually say, "Oh yeah, I know I have that issue. I have trust issues, or I have childhood imprints, or whatever." And then I started to work with both human and cat. That was my holistic cat therapy. And I could help a lot of happy cats, happy humans really find their footing in life and really be happy together. That's what I did for a few years. And first I worked with individuals. Then I started to work with groups because I realized I'm always saying the same thing. I have to put this on a bigger scale. So I started to work with groups, did group programs. And then the last thing was I started to train the trainers. And that was in 2020 when COVID hit and a lot of people got cats. A lot of people sat at home, though the cats started to act up, or a lot of people sat at home. A lot of people started to look for their purpose, and it might be you too. A lot of people in 2020, when we sat in isolation, right? A lot of people started to rethink their lives, and that was the blessing that came out of COVID, in my eyes. A lot of people started to look what's really important in life, and a lot of people started to look for their purpose. So I started this program, Holistic Cat Practitioner, and I started to train the trainers. And I said, if more people do what I do, we can help so many cats, right? I can only help, let's say, 100 cats, but if I train 10 people, now we can help 1,000 cats, and so on and so on. So I started to train the trainers, and I started to train cat practitioners. For me, it was all about making an impact and really taking this on a bigger scale.